Hi, I'm Margie Patchett, Executive Director of Volusia Tax Reform. We've invited all the candidates running for Volusia County Council to visit with us and answer questions pertaining to the issues facing today's voters. These are their answers. In 2003, the Volusia County total budget was $370 million. Last year, it was $698 million, an increase of $41 million each year. How are we better off considering this increase in spending by Volusia County? And do you think the quality of life in Volusia has increased here in the same proportion?
Well, that's a very complex question. And I don't know all the answers to that because I'm not a bookkeeper. But looking at it, I find that with the 21% increase in the general budget, that no, our quality of life probably hasn't increased by that much. I see some things that have improved, so responsive because of the 911 phone system and things like that probably has changed our life a little bit. But seeing the impact, no, it probably hasn't increased it that much. I hope that delving into it, we can probably improve some of those things.
Well, first, I think we have to point out that we do have a high quality of life here, and while even with the budget increasing, the fact is we still do enjoy that. So, you want to point that out and point out the strengths of our community. As far as the budget increasing, from 2003, 2004, in the prime years, the budget starts increasing, staff, overhead starts increasing as well. In the private sector, you see a lot of pullback, and you see companies closing, you see downsizing, you see layoffs. That hasn't hit on the county level or a lot of the municipalities as much. So you did all this ramping up and you haven't really come back down. There hasn't necessarily been a correction. I think at some point there's probably going to have to be some sort of correction, just like it was in the private sector.
The county has cut over the last few years. It has cut 500 jobs. A lot of people will tell you that that's just paper cuts. That's just, jobs that were on paper, but, nothing really happened. But actually it did. People who say that have not been to DeLand. Used to be in DeLand, if you tried to find a parking spot in the employee parking area around the administration center, you could not find a parking spot. Now there are plenty. So those cuts have taken effect. They have really done, I think, a fairly decent job to this point of cutting back. With the property taxes, for instance, property taxes per capita are now about what they were in 2003. Property values are about what they were in 2003, so they're sort of keeping pace as far as property tax with property values, which is good. Now, have they cut enough? That is the question, and the answer is clearly not, that there is going to be additional cuts that are coming. Land values in Volusia County, although they have stabilized somewhat, they are still going down. And with what we have seen in the newspaper with these false bottoms, we have consistently seen false bottoms. We don't know if this is another false bottom. It may be. But even if it is, additional cuts are going to be necessary. I think they've cut about everything they can that would not show up, that is something that it doesn't really affect a service that affects someone vitally, but I think you are going to see in the next few years serious cuts that affect Volusia County terrifically.
How would you approach getting more jobs for Volusia County?
Now that's a much easier question. Okay, being a businessman, I understand that first thing, government doesn't create jobs, business do. And what we need to do, having been a businessman and been on the PLDRC, I feel that the first thing we need to do is make this county more friendly towards small businesses. And that's, if you get more businesses in, they're going to create more jobs, and that's going to cause more revenue coming in and more taxes, more services being used, and that in turn is going to increase income to the county. So I think that what we need is to get more friendly for small and medium-sized businesses, even the large business, but they have a little bit easier to do. And this will cause more jobs to come into the community. Thank you.
Well, I think when it comes to more jobs, you still want to go after those home run swings. You want to land that big whale if you potentially can as well. But you also have to consider local business. And I think while you're competing with all these other counties and areas for these large companies with potential tax incentives and things along those lines, you have to focus on your local businesses. You have to streamline the process. You have to show more efficiencies in getting them started. You have to help cut the red tape and basically allow them to grow. You want to provide a fertile ground, I think. I don't believe that it's necessarily the job of the municipality, the county, the cities to actually create the jobs. I believe it's to provide a fertile area for the businesses to develop and to grow.
Getting more jobs in Volusia County is really what I'm all about. It is really the reason why I'm running. It's the thing that got me interested in running, and it's why that I'm doing it. You know, I know the people in Volusia County that make a difference. I know people statewide that make a difference. I have met many of the legislators, many of the people who are on the cabinet, many editorial boards, many people who are county council members throughout the state. I know a number of people who can help get Volusia County moving again. And our problem, from when you really talk to those people and see what they've done to make a difference, our problem is lack of unity. We have all these divisions. We have divisions between East and West. We have divisions between all these cities and the county. We have divisions between the county and Central Florida. We have to bridge those gaps. Team Volusia, which I understand, I've heard rumors, is perhaps on the chopping block, needs to stay. Team Volusia needs to stay. It needs to be a strengthened organization. Everybody has to buy into it. They have to see the benefits and the burdens. They have to understand what they're going to get out of it, and be a part of that organization and stay part of that organization. You got the CEO cabinet. They're willing to lend their condominiums on the beach and their corporate jets to bring people down here. And I don't think that people in Volusia County fully realize how important that could be. I met a gentleman, David Brown, over in Orlando. He is the head lawyer at Broad and Casals. Great guy. Flies his own jet, lives half a year in California, half a year here in Florida. And he's the one that brought Scripps to Florida. Primarily, he and Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush has probably been one of the best business recruiters the state has had in many, many years. But he had heard out in California that Scripps was looking for a place to move, so what he did was he got Jeb Bush. They flew all around California with the Scripps people and then brought them to Florida and showed them all around Florida and finally got them to locate down a little bit north of Palm Beach in Jupiter. He is the one who is primarily responsible for bringing Lake Nona, the businesses in Lake Nona, to Orlando. He's the one that went out and recruited them, did the same thing there. That is the kind of thing that the CEO cabinet can do for Volusia County and would really make a difference. The county has a role to play too, and everybody's role has to be defined a bit better. The county's got the incubator. I am on the board of directors of the incubator. I think it will be successful. The county had done a land plan for the airport at one time that showed that, well, maybe we should put gas stations, hotels, and restaurants out there. And I think they have scrapped that. I hope they have. One thing that I would really be pushing for is an industrial park, a business park around the airport based around Embry-Riddle, something we absolutely need to do. In Ormond Beach, we got to get Ormond crossings going. It needs to be a road put in so people can actually drive in there and see where their location is going to be. And what I've heard ever since I've been in Volusia County, I've been involved in the Business Development Corporation, the predecessor of Team Volusia, really from the very beginning. It's always been the same thing. We don't have any spec buildings. We need like a 60,000 square foot spec building in order to be able to sell somebody to come here. And perhaps we should try to incentivize that and actually have it and see if that is indeed true. See if all these economic development directors, Dave Richmond, Jim Reichert, and all the rest of them are indeed correct, that is what really needs to be done, and to bring industry into Volusia County. Ormond, I think, really does need to be its own little economic hub. And of course, tourism industry, we need to get the tourism industry off the ground. Daytona, the image of the beachside is the image that most people take away of Volusia County, and we really need to improve that and improve it dramatically.